another print disability, which makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org. You're probably tuning in right now for the off-duty section of the Wall Street Journal. You can now tune into that a couple hours later at 8 p.m. We're now presenting the Jamestown Post-Journal on a regular basis, and this will be its home. Stay with us for the reading of this, and thanks for listening.
Hello, this is P. Fitz, and for the next hour, I'll be reading from the recent issues of the Jamestown Post-Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Improvements made to Cassadaga Lakes by Gregory Bacon. Chautauqua County officials are doing their part to ensure Cassadaga Lakes stays clear of some new weeds. During the county legislature meeting, officials agreed to spend $5,000 so the Cassadaga Lakes Association can retain the services of a qualified aquatic biologist to conduct an aquatic weed survey. The money is coming from the county's $500,000 lake fund, which is part of the annual budget. Bob Ruther, Cassadaga Lakes Association manager, said during a committee meeting that Melanie Rooney with Rooney's Aquatic Biologist will be doing the plant survey. He said there are going to be 65 survey locations throughout the upper, middle, and lower Cassadaga Lakes. What she does is she comes in and sees what plant growth there is there, where it is, and where it might be expanding, and what we need to do to get my cutting crew out there to start knocking them down before they spread, Ruther said. The county has previously given the Cassadaga Lakes Association a grant, and during the committee meeting, Ruther discussed what they've done so far and what they plan to do in 2026. Ruther said they were able to hire a company to clean out the sand in the channel that runs under Maple Avenue in Cassadaga. We took approximately 100 cubic feet of road sand. We noticed that during the spring thaw that the water flow was much improved compared to previous years, he said. In the past, during heavy snow melts, water would back up and start flooding lakeside properties. This year it was much improved, he said. In late May or early June, Ruther said ILM Environments will be bringing in a specialized cutting machinery, and they will be going down the channel, cutting up weeds and loading them up and taking them to a dump zone. There's also been a problem in recent years of beaver dams. Ruther said they were able to obtain a nuisance permit from the State Department of Environmental Conservation, which allows the lethal removal of beavers as well as the removal of select dams. We have a relatively new beaver dam 300 to 400 feet downstream of the Maple Avenue Bridge. We think that's the main culprit backing up the waters. So we're going to take that one out completely and maybe put some buoys in there to discourage the beavers from coming back. Chautauqua County Watershed Coordinator Dave McCoy has been working with the Cassadaga Lakes Association and said that it's important to keep invasive species out of Cassadaga Lakes. If you look at Chautauqua Lake as an example, we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to maintain the lake in a way to keep it from being thoroughly impaired by invasive species, he said. Wine liquor bottle recycling proposed for New York State by John Whitaker. Bottle redemption may be coming for liquor and wine sold in New York State. On Wednesday, State Senator Patricia Fahey, a Democrat from Amsterdam, has introduced legislation, S 10211, that would amend the State Environmental Conservation Act law, to establish a deposit and recycling program for wine containers and liquor containers. The program will create a modernized state administered redemption and recycling program designed to increase recycling rates, reduce litter, and create a sustainable system for managing wine and liquor containers while minimizing burdens on retailers, distributors, restaurants, and bars. New York's container deposit system, commonly known as the bottle bill, has been one of the most successful recycling initiatives in the United States since its adoption in 1982. However, wine and liquor containers remain excluded from the system. Fahey wrote in her legislative justification. Wine and liquor containers, primarily glass, present unique challenges to municipal recycling systems. Glass contamination reduces the value of recyclable materials, increases processing costs, and limits recovery efficiency. As a result, many of these containers are landfilled or improperly recycled. Removing glass containers from the municipal recycling waste stream is therefore critical to improving overall recycling system performance. Fahey proposes requiring a 5-cent deposit for containers under 24 ounces and 10 cents for containers 24 ounces or larger. The deposit would take effect on containers sold on or after April 1st of 2030. Wine and liquor containers would be required to display refund value information either directly on the container or via a scannable code linking to refund details, and would assign labeling responsibility to manufacturers or first sellers. Liquor stores would not be required to accept returns under Fahey's proposal. Redemption centers would be allowed to accept wine and liquor bottles and receive handling fees negotiated by the State Department of Environmental Conservation. The DEC would be required to establish and administer a statewide recycling program funded by deposits and material sales, with the program to also include reimbursement to redemption centers, infrastructure development, fraud prevention, grants, and annual reporting requirements. In 2020, the Jamestown BPU decided to eliminate collecting glass from its customers because collecting glass for recycling was too expensive and because customers typically didn't recycle glass. Glass with deposits on them are cleanest glass and sought by recyclers, but clear glass is often contaminated with light bulbs, window glass, and ovenware that can't be melted down at high temperatures. That makes it undesirable for recycling companies. Fahey's bill creates a separate modernized deposit system tailored to the wine and spirits industry. Unlike the traditional bottle bill model, Fahey's program centralizes administration within the Department of Environmental Conservation and relies on dedicated redemption centers rather than retailers. The approach reduces operational burdens on small businesses and hospitality establishments, improves recycling outcomes for glass and other materials, ensures statewide access to redemption, and creates a self-sustaining circular system funded by deposits and material revenues. By expanding the deposit coverage to wine and liquor containers, New York will significantly increase recycling rates, reduce landfill waste, and strengthen its leadership in sustainable materials management, Fahey wrote. Oregon Democrats found a way to improve roads. Now their gas tax goes before voters as prices soar. Portland, Oregon. Appealing to voters' anxieties about soaring cost of living is central to Democrats, messaging in their hopes of big wins in this year's midterm elections. In Oregon, a question on the primary ballot is complicating that strategy. The Democratic-controlled legislature raised the state gas tax and a range of fees last fall as a way to pay for road improvements and plug a hole in the state's transportation budget. Republicans responded with a petition to repeal the increases, leading to a referendum that will land before voters just as the Iran war is causing the price of gas to skyrocket around the United States. It is a hell of a time to be raising gas taxes on people, said Janine Holly, filling up her tank on a recent morning in Portland. The gas tax repeal on the state's May 19th primary ballot comes amid widespread disruptions in oil industry from the war in Iran started by Israel and President Donald Trump. Discontent is high among U.S. consumers across the political spectrum, with the price of gas topping $4.50 a gallon nationally on Friday and averaging about 80 cents more per gallon in Oregon. The referendum will give voters a chance to weigh in on a hot-button issue, hitting them directly in the pocketbook at the time when prices remain elevated for everything from housing to groceries. Nationally, Democrats have focused on the affordability concerns similar to those that helped propel Trump to victory in 2024. Some of their candidates have even proposed ways to cut taxes as a way to promote their agenda and counter a traditional GOP strategy. It's difficult to imagine a worse situation for a gas tax increase than right now in American politics, said Chris Koski, professor of political science and environmental studies at Portland's Reed College. Republicans sense an opportunity. They wasted no time in appealing to voters after the legislature and Democratic governor signed off on the tax increase, which also included a higher tax on a higher payroll tax for transit projects and a boost in vehicle registration and title fees. They needed 78,000 voter signatures to qualify for the referendum for the ballot. They quickly got 250,000. That is a remarkable number, said Republican strategist Rebecca Tweed. Republicans in Oregon have countered Democrats' affordability messaging by portraying the tax and fee increases as further fueling the high cost of living. Do Oregonians want to pay more? The answer is no, said GOP Senator Bruce Starr, who helped lead the referendum campaign. Everything they're looking at is expensive. Under the legislation, Oregon tax would rise from 40 cents to 46 cents a gallon. That would make it tied with Maryland for the 8th highest gas tax of any state when factoring in other state taxes and fees, according to figures from the U.S. Energy Information Administration. At the Portland gas station, Michael Birch said he used to spend $70 to fill 3/4 of his pickup truck's tank. But now he pays $80 for just over half a tank. I'm sick and tired of taxes, the 76-year-old retiree said. Gas is certainly dampening the spirits and the coffers of the folks that aren't as well off. Hannah Cole, a 30-year-old student, said she is not sure how she would vote on the primary ballot referendum. I think I would be in favor of it if it was going to go to things that it is saying it was going to go for, such as fixing our roads. I also kind of feel that it's just a grab at trying to get more money from the people who live here. Democrats blame the Iran war Oregon Democrats spent much of last year fighting to pass a transportation funding bill to help raise money for services such as road paving and snow plowing. The debate became amid projections of declining gas tax revenue as more people adopt electric hybrid and low fuel efficient cars. They finally passed a narrower version of their plan during a special session called the Democratic by Governor Tina Kotek. She recently acknowledged the challenging timing of the referendum. Certainly the conversation at the ballot this year is tough. A tough sell right now because I think everyone is feeling a pinch on their household budgets, she told reporters. But she and other Democrats said the root cause of the spike in gas prices is Trump's decision to go to war with Iran. She suggested the federal government consider reducing the federal 18-cent a gallon tax if it wants to provide relief at the pump for Americans. Some Oregonians are receptive to the Democrats' reason for passing the legislation last year. Kurt Bornman, 68, said he would support the gas tax increase even though he's now paying at least $10 more to fill up his tank. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Jamestown Post-Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Legislators propose criminal charges for dog shelter violations. 3 state lawmakers want to see harsher penalties for those who don't provide appropriate shelter for their dogs. Legislation was introduced recently in the State Assembly by Assemblywoman Paula Kay, a Democrat from Monticello, as a companion bill to legislation introduced earlier in the session by Senator Monica Martinez of Hapag, with a co-sponsorship from Senator Pam Helming of Canandaigua. The legislation would amend the state agricultural and markets law to make the improper sheltering of a dog from a violation to a misdemeanor. Changing the classification makes the offense punishable by up to a year in jail and a fine of between $500 and $1,000. A person given 72 hours to rectify the inappropriate sheltering of a dog under the proposed New York law. If the condition isn't fixed, after 3 days, the dog owner could face a new set of charges. The initiative supplements the state's continued commitment to ensuring the safety of animals we coexist with, demonstrating zero tolerance for animal neglect, abuse, or abandonment, Martinez and Kay wrote in their legislative justification. Iowa, Vermont, Virginia, and Washington have strengthened laws to require clean, dry, and windproof shelter, particularly for dogs kept outside. Other states like Kentucky, Nebraska, and New Mexico don't have specific animal shelter laws, instead prosecuting claims of lack of proper shelter under broader animal cruelty statutes. In April, Alabama Media Group reported on Bo's Law, which establishes standards for care of dogs confined outdoors. That bill charges first-time violators with Class C misdemeanor with jail time of up to 90 days and a fine of up to $500. Penalties increase for repeated violations, with the third offense listed as a Class A misdemeanor, punishable by a fine of up to $6,000 and up to 1 year in jail. New York's penalty for first offense could be more stringent than the recently passed Alabama law. New York law states that dogs restrained outdoors must have shade by natural or artificial means to protect the dog from direct sunlight at all times, when exposure to sunlight is likely to threaten the dog's health. Dogs left outdoors in inclement weather must have a shelter that has a waterproof roof, is structurally sound, with insulation appropriate to the local climatic conditions and sufficient to protect the dog from inclement weather. Be constructed to allow each dog adequate freedom of movement to make normal postural adjustments, including the ability to stand up, turn around, lie down with its limbs outstretched, and allow the dog to go to the bathroom. The housing facility and the area immediately surrounding it shall be regularly cleaned to maintain a healthy and sanitary environment and to minimize health hazards. Inadequate shelter may be indicated by the appearance of the housing facility itself, including but not limited to the size, structural soundness, evidence of crowding within the housing facility, healthful environment in the immediate surrounding such facility, or by the appearance or physical condition of the dog. Like any living being, dogs require adequate shelter for their size, weight, breed, and overall health and wellness, Martinez and Kay wrote in their legislative justification. While some breeds may be conducive to outdoor living, all dogs require insulation from extreme weather conditions, a hygienic space free from trash or excrement, with the ability to move and stretch, fresh water, and food. Failure to provide appropriate shelter can jeopardize the health of the dog and inflict unnecessary pain and suffering. State advisory is alarming for fishing in region by Forrest Fisher. The old-timers on the dock used to measure a day by weight in the cooler. Limit of walleye or a bucket of yellow perch meant success. Supper, supermarket savings, and bragging rights. Today, the measuring stick feels different. Increasing advisories from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and ongoing health studies about contaminants in fish have quietly inserted a new question into every cast. Should we still eat what we catch? It's startling, a bit frightening, and downright intimidating for many. At the moment, eating one fish per month is being recommended if it comes from Lake Erie waters. For generations, fishing and eating fish were inseparable traditions. The ritual was complete only when the skillet crackled at the end of the day. Walleye, cheeks, and butter, golden perch fillets are the highlight of a family cookout. Those meals carried more than flavor. They carried identity, family history, and connection to the water. Today, modern science has a way of forcing reflection, consumption advisories tied to mercury, PFAS, and PCBs, Mirex, and much more are not easy topics to dismiss, especially for anglers who spend their lives considering that lakes and rivers are a healthy resource. Nobody wants to imagine that the fish thriving beneath a beautiful sunset might also carry invisible baggage from decades of industrial runoff and environmental neglect. So here we are. We modern anglers stand in an unusual emotional current, tugged between two forms of health. Physical health says caution matters. Read the advisories, limit consumption, think long term. A fish dinner that once symbolized wholesome living now comes with footnotes and serving recommendations. Flip the coin. There are other benefits. Emotional health tells another story entirely. There's undeniable therapy in fishing, the early morning stillness, the rhythmic casting or throb of a trolled lure, the pulse jump when a walleye thumps the line in deep water. Fishing slows the noise of modern life. It lowers our stress levels, clears minds, reconnects people to weather, water, patience, and nature. For many anglers, the catch itself has become enough. Tarpon fishing down south is an example where possession is not allowed, but catching one is considered a bucket list item for millions of anglers, and releasing it is a moment remembered for all time. In fact, catch and release fishing may represent an evolution rather than a loss. The satisfaction no longer depends on possession. It comes from the deception, convincing a wild creature that a painted lure, soft plastic, or twitching jig was a real prey. For a few thrilling seconds, human instinct and fish instinct collide in a game older than memory. Then comes the release, watching the fish disappear back into the dark water, unharmed and still part of the ecosystem. The moment carries its own reward, maybe even deeper one. There is also something quietly hopeful in teaching younger anglers that success does not always require harvest. A photograph can preserve a memory. A released fish can create another opportunity, another story, and another connection for someone else tomorrow. None of this means fish fries are finished. Many anglers will continue enjoying occasional meals within health guidelines, and traditions deserve respect. But perhaps the definition of fishing success is expanding. Maybe the real prize was never only the fillet. Maybe it was the sunrise launch, birds yodeling in the distance, the jokes, bantering and laughter in the boat, the drag screaming against a strong fish, the peaceful exhaustion at the end of the day. The fish in the end perhaps may not need to be eaten to nourish us. We are going to talk much more about this through the next few weeks. There's a graph or a chart accompanying the article listing a number of water bodies and the number of meals per month for the general population. For instance, Erie Canal between Lockport and Niagara River, Tonawanda Creek downstream of Pendleton, you can consume 4 meals a month for the general population and only 1 meal a month per month for sensitive population. Lake Erie, you can consume 1 meal per month for each group. The other bodies of water listed include the Buffalo River, Ellicott Creek, Gill Creek downstream of High Park, Niagara River upstream of Niagara Falls, Lake Ontario, Niagara River downstream of Niagara Falls. For those bodies, there are no limitations. Constitutional question. The Chautauqua Lake Property Owners Association appeals Wetlands Act court decision. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Jamestown Post-Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Chautauqua Lake is, there's a picture of Chautauqua Lake. The Chautauqua Lake Property Owners Association has filed an appeal of State Supreme Court Justice Richard Plotkin's April ruling that annulled the state's Freshwater Wetlands Act changes on procedural grounds. The CLPOA is asking the Third Department Appellate Division to declare the changes unconstitutional rather than null or on procedural grounds. The CLPOA, along with the town of Ellery, Builders Exchange of the Southern Tier Incorporated, and Bemis Point Business Association, filed an appeal of State Supreme Court Justice Richard Plotkin's April ruling that annulled the state's Freshwater Wetlands Act changes on procedural grounds. Plotkin ruled that the CLPOA and its co-plaintiffs had not demonstrated that the state legislature's decision to replace jurisdictional maps with a definition-based system to determine the location of wetlands violates the procedural due process rights of the CLPOA and its co-plaintiffs in every conceivable application. Plotkin also ruled that the CLPOA hadn't shown the 2022 Freshwater Wetlands Act changes and Part 664 regulations are impermissibly vague, that the 2022 amendments weren't an improper delegation of legislative decisions to the DEC and didn't prove a violation of home rule protections in the state constitution. The appeal was filed Monday in the Third Department Appellate Division. Freshwater Wetlands Act and its Parts 664 regulations were annulled by Plotkin in April, though he did so on procedural grounds. That means that the Department of Environmental Conservation can go through the correct process and then implement Part 664 regulations later, and by doing so resolve the issues Plotkin raised in his decision. The CLPOA is asking the appeals court to rule squarely on the Act's constitutionality. If the appellate court rules in favor of the CLPOA, it would start the entire process over with the state legislature rather than starting with the process of simply writing the regulations. Of all the arguments made by the local organization, Plotkin said the DEC did not do its due diligence on issues raised by organizations like the CLPOA. There are 4 lawsuits in total that were part of the consolidated oral argument on January 30th. The first lawsuit was filed by Chautauqua Lake Property Owners Association, followed by Chautauqua Lake Partnership. Lawsuits were also filed by the Village of Kiris Joel and Town of Palm Tree, as well as the Business Council of New York State with 7 co-plaintiffs. The suits raised many of the same issues, though the 2 Chautauqua County lawsuits raised issues specific to Chautauqua Lake. Only CLPOA lawsuit with its co-plaintiffs is being appealed. Having concluded that the DEC did not adequately identify the relevant areas of environmental concern, did not take a hard look at them, and did not make a reasoned elaboration of the basis for its determination of non-significance, the court concludes that the subject action, the promulgation of new Part 64 regulations, must be annulled or non-compliance with for noncompliance with the State Environmental Quality Act, Plotkin wrote in his decision. His decision doesn't annul the 2022 Freshwater Wetlands Act, only the DEC's Part 664. Part 663 is now the DEC established procedural requirements and standards for the use of regulated wetlands and issuance of permits. 664 established standards and procedures for classifying wetlands. The appeal filed Monday asked the 3rd Department Appellate Division to review Plotkin's decision in an attempt to strike down the Freshwater Wetlands Act changes as unconstitutional. Plotkin said the DEC's completion of a short-term environmental assessment form indicated there would be no impact or a small impact across 11 different dimensions that included whether the new regulations would result in a change in the use or an intensity of the use of the land. DEC officials had said new Part 64 regulations would increase the amount of regulated wetlands that would lead to reduction in adverse impacts on the wetlands as more projects were required to avoid, minimize, or mitigate impacts on the wetlands. Plotkin said the DEC received public comments identifying specific areas of potential environmental concern with the new part of 664 regulations and the Freshwater Wetlands Act update, including the prospect of urban sprawl and other growth, inducing impacts such as impact to aquatic ecosystems, algae blooms, native invasive species, effects on urban communities that included sprawl growth and inducing impacts. If you'd like to hear the remainder of this article, please contact Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service at 716-821-5555, and someone will gladly read the article to you. Audit Demands Fredonia Corrections by M.J. Stafford. Management by village trustees caused the village of Fredonia's finances to deteriorate over a 6-year period, according to an audit by the State Comptroller's Office. The audit released Friday covers a 6-year period from 2019 to 2025. It demands a corrective action plan from the village within 90 days, although the trustees told us that they routinely monitored financial operations by reviewing monthly reports and conducting budget work sessions each year. The trustees did not fully understand the village's financial condition and relied heavily on village treasurer for guidance, according to the audit. The Board of Trustees did not take appropriate actions to maintain the village fiscal stability, such as adopting structurally balanced budgets and written multi-year capital and financial plans, and ensuring that the treasurer filed annual statements and reports when required. The audit continues. As a result, the village's financial condition deteriorated over the 6-year period. The audit notes the use of fund balance to finance operations or avoid increasing taxes. From 2019-20 through 24-25 fiscal years, the board adopted budgets for the general water and sewer funds with planned operating deficits that totaled $3 million over the 6 years. This caused unrestricted fund balance across the general water and sewer funds to decline by more than $2.8 million. As a result, the village did not have sufficient resources to fund the 24-25 operating expenditures and had to issue an $825,000 revenue anticipation note. The audit report goes on to note when the RAN revenue anticipation note matured the following year, officials had to increase the village real property tax by $1.7 million, or 55% tax increase in the 25-26 fiscal year to repay the RAN and to balance recurring revenues with recurring expenditures. The audit also criticizes for failing to create written, comprehensive, multi-year financial and capital plans to address the village's long-term operational and capital needs. In addition, trustees did not ensure that the treasurer filed annual statement with the village clerk or properly filed a report with the state comptroller's office over the past 5 fiscal years. The audit makes 8 recommendations to the village about improving its financial operations and stability. According to new data from the Energy Information Administration, wrong article. The board should adopt realistic, structurally balanced budgets based on historical trends and known plans for the fiscal year, with sufficient recurring revenues that finance recurring expenditures, and that include sufficient resources for capital project expenditures. Trustees should also closely monitor the village's finances, including available fund balance and cash balances, and ensure the village financial condition does not decline further. The treasurer should prepare and update financial reports, such as cash flow projections, on a routine basis and present them to the board for consideration and appropriate corrective action. The trustees must develop financial and capital plans to ensure that the treasurer properly submits statements and reports. A written corrective action plan that addresses the findings and recommendations in this report should be prepared and approved, provided to our office within 90 days pursuant to state law. The Comptroller's Office ordered, Fredonia. BOCES students showcase skills leadership at state competition. There's a picture of senior Kylie Franklin of Southwestern High School, who placed second in a job interview competition at the State Skills Conference in Syracuse. This is a Post-Journal staff created article. Dozens of career and technical education students from Erie 2, Chautauqua, Cattaraugus, BOCES showed their talents at the 60th Annual New York State Skills USA Leadership and Champions Conference held April 22nd and 24th through the 24th at New York State Fairgrounds in Syracuse. Representing all 4 educational centers, students joined top competitors across the state in various trade-based contests designed to highlight technical skill, professionalism, and leadership. Erie 2, Chautauqua, Cattaraugus, BOCES students delivered an impressive performance, earning 6 medals overall, including 3 first-place finishes, 2 second-place, and 1 third-place finish. Among medalists were Hughes Educational Center senior Kylie Franklin of Southwestern in criminal justice, who placed second in the job interview competition. Students from the Ormsby Educational Center led the way with 3 gold medals from senior Tristan Barron of East Aurora, automotive and body repair, 1 first place in collision damage repair. Senior Jane Harith of Springville Griffith Cosmetology earned first place in aesthetics, and Junior Oliver Dell of Springville Griffith Small Large Animal Science captured first place in animal careers. Additional honorees included East Aurora Senior Kyle Sapirski, automotive body repair, who placed second in auto refinishing, and Iroquois Junior Stefano Pasucci, pre-engineering and drafting design, who earned a third in technical drafting. Skills USA is a national workforce development organization that helps students become career ready in their chosen trades while also developing leadership, professionalism, communication, and teamwork skills. Winners at the state level qualify to compete at the 2026 Skills USA National Leadership and Skills Conference, set for June 1st through the 5th in Atlanta. During the conference, students also heard from E2 CCB District Superintendent and CEO David O'Rourke, PhD, and Assistant Superintendent in Curriculum Instruction John Griesmer, ED, who spoke about the importance of Skills USA in career technical education. The students got to see we got to see our students here, spend a couple of hours with them, said Jordan Smith, a consultant teacher and Skills USA advisor from the Hughes Educational Center. It was so wonderful that they came out and truly cared about the great work we are doing. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Jamestown Post-Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. North Harmony approves herbicide use with changes. Michael Zabrodsky. Stowe. In the end, North Harmony residents had to settle compromise. In the end, North Harmony town residents had to settle for a compromise, and most did not like it. The North Harmony Town Board adopted an amended resolution in support of herbicide application for the management of Eurasian water milfoil in designated areas within the town. Close to 55 people attended the Monday meeting to show board members their support for applying herbicides in Chautauqua Lake. Town residents did not want the board to miss an opportunity to treat the lake. Because of a tight deadline, the board did not approve the 2026 herbicide application for curly leaf pondweed. Curly leaf pondweed. Supervisor Robert Yates said. Town resident Allison Churchill expressed her concerns of how important it was for the board to apply the herbicide. We do not want to miss the opportunity to treat for Eurasian water milfoil. It's almost universally viewed as harmful to lake ecosystems and recreational activities, and most lakes attempt to actively manage or eradicate it. We are aware that there are many factors that impact the health of the lake, Churchill said. She added that the Quigley Park and shoreline in 2025 was choked with weeds, making it impossible for boats to navigate and unsafe for fishing, and for people or pets to swim because of the algae. Neighbors were unable to use their jet skis, paddle boards, canoes, or boats for fear of burning out their propellers, which were clogged with weeds. or being exposed to blue-green algae toxins. Additionally, as these weeds decayed, the stench was overwhelming, Churchill said. Added that Chautauqua County residents benefit from the lake. The lake, is a huge contributor to tourism, which is the mainstay of income for this county. Those that don't live on the lake benefit greatly from it. All it has and can offer. If it's clean and healthy, individuals and businesses in the county enjoy the trickle-down effect of lake activity and tourism, Churchill said. Town resident Chuck Hutchinson also aired his comments about the herbicide application. I would like to see some of my tax dollars go towards maintenance, maintaining and rectifying some lake problems, Hutchinson said. I've been on this board several times expressing interest in why we aren't treating weeds like every other community around the lake, and it's don't have the money or we miss the cutoff. We go through this every year. He added that, in his opinion, the board is part of the problem because it is not resolving any issues regarding the lake. Yates said to the attendees that he understands the concerns about the lake. We wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation tonight, and I would hope that in the future, the next coming years, however this board turns out, whoever sits here at this table as supervisor will keep an open mind and try to make things better for everybody, make the lake more usable, Yates added. He said in order to move forward with the resolution, concessions must be made. So in order to get this moving forward, we will have to make concessions between the Chautauqua Lake and Watershed Management Alliance, the Chautauqua Lake Partnership, the county, the state, every municipality, and every person that votes. No one's going to get everything they want. We never do in life. Life is a compromise. Life is conversation, communication, and that's what we're going to try to do, and that's why we're here tonight, Yates noted. When the public comment session closed, the board began discussing the amendment to resolution. For about 1.5 hours, board members discussed modifications to the resolution presented before the board. The board's amendment to the resolution called for the exclusion of the Quigley Park area and the Longview area to be treated. The board approved the amended resolution, and after the vote, a majority of the people got up from their seats and promptly left the room. And Yates had a parting comment for them. When everybody gets up and disgusted, there will be room on the board, Yates said. Some people responded that they were not town residents and said they could not run for election. Despite the brief exodus, the board began again conducting town business. Big names confirmed for the Chautauqua Institution. Josh Groban, Kenny G., and Amy Grant added summer schedule at Chautauqua Institution by John Whitaker. Josh Groban joins the Chautauqua Symphony Orchestra for Josh Groban Stage Screen and Symphony on Thursday, August 13th at the Chautauqua Institution. Tickets for Groban's performance go on sale Friday. Groban released a new album on Friday titled Cinematic. The album is a tribute to the world of the silver screen. Its 10 tracks include songs from such movie classics as The Godfather, Casablanca, The Lion King, Stand By Me, and Breakfast at Tiffany's. In addition to the performance at Chautauqua Institution this summer, Groban announced in December that he will embark on a North American tour with special guest Jennifer Hudson. Groban has sold more than 35 million albums worldwide. His catalog spans a series of chart-topping blockbuster albums, including his debut album, Josh Groban, which has been certified 5 times platinum, Closer certified 6 times platinum, Number 1 certified 7 times platinum, Awake certified 2 times platinum, Illuminations all that echoes, stages, bridges, and harmony. Groban has made his Broadway debut in 2016 with a starring role in Natasha, Pierre, and the Great Comet of 1812. He garnered a Tony Award nomination for Best Lead Actor in a Musical. He has expanded his presence with appearances on Glee, The Simpsons, The Office, CSI, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and The Crazy Ones, as well as in feature films such as Coffee Town, Muppets Most Wanted, and Crazy Stupid Love. In addition, he starred in the Netflix series. In 2022, he returned to Radio City Music Hall for a residency of his great Big Radio City show and launched a nationwide tour. Groban also starred in ABC Special Beauty and the Beast, a 30th celebration in December of 2022. Singer Amy Grant poses for a portrait in New York on Thursday, April 16, 2026. There's a picture of Amy Grant. Institution officials also announced recently that Kenny G will perform on August 27th at 8 p.m. in the Institute Amphitheater. Sorry. Amy Grant is a 6-time Grammy winner and wife of country music star Vince Gill, also known for Every Heartbeat and That's What Love Is For. Her roots are in gospel music, but found a larger audience with the release of her 1991 Heart in Motion. And she will also be appearing at the Chautauqua Institute. Cummins, local employees make $332,000 gift to area nonprofits. The employees of the Cummins Jamestown engine plant and the Cummins Company, through a corporate match, have generated more than $332,000 for regional nonprofits. Each year at Cummins JEP, employees choose charitable organizations they wish to support through their annual giving campaign. The generosity of these Cummins employees results in significant contributions to not-for-profits across Chautauqua County, Cattaraugus County, Allegheny, and Warren, Pennsylvania counties. In addition to employee-chosen charities, Cummins provides a corporate matching gift which goes to benefit United Way of Chautauqua County and Allegheny counties, and the United Fund of Warren County. The result of those donations and the corporate match totaled $332,066. Internal annual giving campaign is facilitated by the JAGC committee, and last year's members include Beverly Allen, Mike Brooks, Debbie Giordano, Jen Lundmark, Brandy Slideshow, Will Mattison, and team leader Christian Pickett. You have been listening to a reading of articles and features from recent issues of the Jamestown Post-Journal. We read from the Jamestown Post-Journal every Saturday at 6 p.m. Your reader has been P. Fitz. Thank you for listening.
Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have the Niagara Falls. The following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability, which makes reading